Soft.
So what are we going to cover today? First off, I'm going to kick it off here with a little bit about Tatsoft, who we are, where we come from, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and he's going to go into kind of a what's new with 9.2 and give us an overview of some of the major new features and enhancements in 9.2. And then we're going to have Mark's going to kick in with a demo highlighting these major features within 9.2. And then we'll go to Q&A, and that's about it. So we are Tatsoft. Who is Tatsoft? Okay, so we make a powerful industrial software platform that can be applied in real-time industrial applications. We were founded 10 years ago. We are an agile, independent software company. Agile in that we're extremely responsive to our customers, and independent that we're not really affiliated with any big automation vendor, so we can freely communicate to just about anything out there. And we have a deep 25-year plus history in industrial real-time applications. We like to call it an industrial DNA. Our founder, Mark, and our awesome development team are truly experts at real-time software. Our original focus was in the OEM market, customers that were putting our software on machines or embedding it in their own systems and delivering them to their end user customers. Over the last few years, we've been going into what I call more in the mainstream markets, with one of our key strategies being going to market through systems integrator partners. And our integrators take our platform and apply their expertise to solve problems for their and our mutual end user customers. And certainly we do business with end users, and OEMs are still a big part of our market, our existing OEMs. And then we have many new OEMs kind of coming on board with us also. We are based in Houston, Texas, with resellers and SI partners around the world. Our platform is an open platform built on OT and IT standards and supports many OT IT standards, like in the IT world, SQL and HTML5, and in the OT world, OPC UA and MQTT, to name a few. We are .NET at our core, but we are also cross-platform in that we run on Microsoft Windows as well as Linux, and we also have a iOS product. We are all about connectivity here, connectivity to any real-time device and any data source. We are software designed for Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is really a lot about connectivity, so that's where we are focused on a lot of our current and future development. I'd mentioned we do business with quite a few OEMs, but we are in a variety of industries. We're really a horizontal industrial platform, so we can be applied in many, many industries. So this is just a few of those industries, but again, we're a framework that's really built for any industry. This is just a sample of some of our customers, kind of some maybe more of the recognizable logos, if you will. And this is just a mix, and again, a small subset of our customers, a mix of end users and some OEMs mixed in there. But we're basically delivering applications and solutions worldwide. So I wanted to get into just a brief explanation of our product family. So we call the platform FrameworX. It is our single development environment. So the platform's frameworks, and then we have these 4 products to the right there. And I'll start with our FrameworX Unlimited. FrameworX Unlimited is really a server-based unlimited version, meaning unlimited clients, unlimited I/O points, unlimited data connections, and unlimited developers for your enterprise-oriented applications. And then we have FactoryStudio. And a lot of people know us by FactoryStudio because that's been our product name for many years. And FactoryStudio is, again, built on that same FrameworX platform, single development environment. But FactoryStudio can be scaled by I/O and clients. Full-featured, scaled by I/O and clients, can be kind of right-sized to your application. And then we have our Edge HMI. And this is really a more affordable solution that's mainly used in kind of the panel HMI world. And we, since we run both on Windows and Linux, we can fit right at that panel replacement. If you're looking for a PC-based, more functional panel, that's where our Edge HMI fits in. And again, it is scaled by I/O and can have client connections also. And last but not least is our Edge Gateway. And the Edge Gateway is a headless system, meaning no graphics, but it's meant to be deployed at the edge. And again, since it is based on frameworks, it has all the device communications and data communications, as well as scripting and processing capabilities to do some processing of your data at the edge. And then it provides a connection to another framework system or the cloud or any basically place you need to move your data. One other thing I wanted to mention here was we pretty much our software is licensed as perpetual plus maintenance, but also with frameworks and some of our new product offerings, we are offering things in a subscription also. Let's see here. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an overview of what the main features and main additions of what 9.2 has touched in our product. So this is kind of a high-level functional overview of frameworks. And if we go to this next slide, all the areas that have these funky dotted lines around it are the areas that we touched in enhancements in our version 9.2. So starting with like our device drivers, we've done some work around our OPC UA, our Rockwell driver, and our MQTT driver. Then also we did a lot of enhancements to our asset data modeling, so that now we can you can consume, integrate, and create your own data models. And then we're also introducing what we're calling dynamic tag providers. And we've done specific tag providers there for those listed, the MQTT, the OPC UA, those ones listed there. And Dave will get a little more into that as we go. And then we've done we also made some enhancements around our UI and graphics, the visualization portion of our software, and mainly around components, some symbols, and enhancements to our HTML5 support. And then we announced in the data historian area, we announced several weeks ago our partnership and our product offering around our embedded Canary historian. And that is a big move to have now a embedded time series historian from Canary right within the FrameworX platform. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and he's going to roll into some more specifics around the major additions to the software.
Thanks, Harry. So you might be wondering, what has TADSoft included with the TADSoft Canary Historian for you? So here's what it is. For free, we are including 500 Canary Historian tags with every license from TADSoft, from the Edge Gateway, the data migration tool, all the way up to the FrameworX Unlimited. Everything in between comes with a 500 Canary Historian tags when you get FrameworX. That's a great deal. You can very easily and cost effectively increase the number of Canary Historian tags from 500 all the way up to unlimited, whatever your needs are. Also, you get native integration to the full Canary Historian and system via the TADSoft Canary tag provider, which we'll be showing you here shortly. Harry mentioned it as well. So as you'll see, it's a fully embedded and fully integrated Canary Historian inside version 9.2. So what exactly does that mean, right? It's more than just sort of dropping it into FrameworX. It's being fully integrated means data from the historian is accessible throughout the entire platform. That's full access, whether you're using it in graphics, in scripts, in reports, even via MQTT as another object, as any other object is within FrameworX. With FrameworX 9.2, we're making tag creation even easier than it was before. Now you can create your tags as you create assets with hierarchies and tree views created automatically as you define the assets. Have you worked with asset data models before? If you have, you're really going to like what you see here, that you can organize your tags in a folder structure with logical names, making for quicker access to data in meaningful ways, as you would expect from TADSoft. FrameworX also provides greater flexibility in creating your data model as you deem fit, without any conflicts or unnecessary restrictions. So I think here we go. Thank you. Okay, tag providers are something new in version 9.2. They connect to external data sources and consume their namespaces, providing live access to both the entire namespace of topics and schema structure. You automatically get access to all the tags and data structures just by connecting to that provider. It's much easier than, or it's just more than a tag browser. It's dynamic. It reflects the current structure as it changes in real time. Accessing tags and namespaces will be available for use in screens, scripts, symbols, and more. FrameworX supports many types of tag browsers or tag providers, for example, protocols, historians, or devices like Canary, or like the Rockwell ControlLogix and CompactLogix, OPC UA, MQTT, and in other framework systems as well. Next. Enhancements to our OPC UA support include new tools and a new user interface to make setting up OPC UA connections easier than it was before, and additional security options around authentication and encryption help provide for better performance than ever before as well. And you'll see that. As you're building out your applications with MQTT, you'll find having a simulator to generate various types of values very handy. And we've included that in 9.2. And when you are ready to work with live data, you simply switch your brokers to the real-time data. So it's very simple. Develop with using the simulator, and when you're ready to go live, just switch to the real-time data. 9.2 enables faster broker response, along with store and forward to get you through those disconnects and downtime issues that may happen from time to time. With release of FrameworX 9.2, we're announcing a partnership and integration with HiveMQ as well. For those enterprise class deployments where a very robust tool set is needed to address complex scenarios, we can provide and support you with one of the premier tools available today in HiveMQ. Size your integration based on the number of MQTT clients. We'll be having another meeting like this one here today in the near future to highlight that relationship and that partnership with HiveMQ. So just a few final things here, okay? We've included support for more HTML5 components and with better performance, or components and with better performance. We've included Linux support for Docker containers. With 9.2, everything developed for desktop applications, including scripts, protocols, everything will be compatible with Linux. So imagine being able to browse into your controller, connect with data, and log them to a historian without even configuring a single tag. This is something new in 9.2. And here to show you some of these features is Philip. I'm sorry, is Mark. Sorry. Mark, take it away.
So let's talk a little bit about the architecture of this demo. Let's say we have a typical distributed application where we do have some remote data acquisition. In this case, use remote city with solar panels as examples. And in each one of those seats, we have a framework edge that will be pushing data to a FrameworX Unlimited that will be running in a centralized location, serving data through directly Windows clients, iOS clients, HTML5, and also archiving the data on Canary on that, and using MQTT at the device level. So that's more or less a typical architecture. And the idea of the demo was to show very easily how we can do that, very simple steps of configurations, okay? Any questions so far, Dave? Yes. Okay. Let's keep moving here. So we will now go and show a little bit of the live demo. Okay. So if Dave or Philip, you just can give me some confirmation if the quality is okay now.
It looks good.
Yes, please. Because I had that problem, Dave, from time to time, don't be shy and talk with me. I need to make sure I'm alive here. Okay, so what we have here, as I was describing, is the implementation of that scenario where we have this asset modeling. And the key points in the architecture that we are trying to leverage here is that we did the application, so the number of the seats or exactly how many assets we have on the seats, and all this interface is aware about the asset model itself. So how the display will look, even how much data you bring to the system. You don't need to do project changes to be able to do that. And I'm going to show in a little bit later how we accomplished that configuration. But it was really easy to do so. So when I select here G-City, I am showing only 2 assets. If I go to G-City, in this case, I have 5 assets. The pop-up information that I get from the assets, it's of course one template screen that you apply whatever selected asset you have. The same way when you change from map view to dashboard view, if I'm going to show 5 elements or 2 elements, it's dependent on what we have on the asset modeling. And also, if you select the details of one asset, the UI will go according to that interface. But the key points I want to make sure you get the idea, it's not only the UI is responsive for your asset modeling. As you're going to see on the configuration, everything in the application is responsive to that. So the amount of data we are reading, the amount of tag stories we are creating on Canary, everything's driven by the assets, not by your application engineering. Any other comments on that, Dave, before I go to the engineering?
Nope, you're good to go.
Good. And what we did try, before I go to the engineering, what we really try to show here in more detail is, in fact, that we have those many areas that, let's go back to that slide. I really like the way Harry presented. We are going to show what are the new features we added to that release on those many components. The first one, in fact, was I showing. We have this enhanced web HTML5 interface with a new object to do asset visualization with the new with some new controls. So we did a reasonable amount of enhancements in our HTML5 interface, as well, of course, a very complete support for both Windows and Linux in native UIs if you need that for your panel. Okay. Another key point that Dave pointed out is like connectivity and this new concept of tag provider. So let's explore a little bit this concept and some basic explanation before I show the configuration. We are working a lot with that concept of unified namespace, where instead of worrying too much about tags or what applications you have in this system, you really make sure you have a well-defined asset modeling, a well-defined namespace around your data, and your data sources should be able to really have the best of your life. This data should be dynamic when you add one more element in your MQTT network. So the way our software with the 9.2 is designed to work is if now I have in my data sources, I add one more panel in this city, or I add even one more city, the requirement is we don't need to do 0 new programming on the applications, 0. As long as, of course, the new data, they have the proper place to fit in your unified namespace. So the new concept of they call those self-aware or self-adapting applications, if you have a strong data model, you can add or remove assets in that model dynamically without having to change any configuration in your custom solution. That makes sense to you, Dave?
Yes.
Good. So let's start to go in detail to see how is exactly the architecture that we have around this demo. What we put running here is a full architecture running a few applications. In this case, I'm running the same computer, but this application we are including as demo applications with the new release. So we are going to find 2 new example projects, asset monitors and edge collector. There are 2 main components to implement this architecture. And so the edge application is running here. And we're running also in this station our embedded MQTT broker. to receive data from our MQTT simulator. So we do have all those components running here in addition to Canary in this architecture. So if you just put the main project application to run when you're playing for them by yourself, when you run the main application, that's the asset monitor, is this application that's provides the user interface, the web pages, it will start all those components. So the data flow is from the MQTT simulator or from your MQTT data sources to the broker we run embedded in our edge device, that the edge will forward that to Canary Studio. One thing that's also optional in the architecture, but we put here, is we also have this gateway technology. So if your edge device cannot reach out Canary Studio or the server computer directly, for instance, you need to switch from level 2 to level 4 on network security, okay? We can do that through the gateway, putting the gate in a DMZ. So the gateway allows to route data through DMZs when you need to cross secure networks. Or, of course, our edge application can publish application directly to your students or to your main application. And on top of that, we have the UI. And as you saw, we provided the user interface in native Windows, which is this one, and in HTML5, which is this one here. So the same server is able to provide, according to requirements, one or another, or even both user interfaces outside from the main projects, okay? Before I switch to show the project configuration, Dave, do you have any question or anything that you want to highlight in the architecture?
No, I think we're good. I want to make sure we get through everything that we want to show before we get to questions. Unless someone has something that needs, a question specific about this.
Yes, you can keep using the chat area that Philip is there replying some questions right away. And before I go to the configuration, just quick parenthesis. One of the screens we have in this project is what also zero programming. It's just a template page created automatically. You saw David pointed out some of our enhancements are related to make our project templates even a little bit smart than they are. And that's one example of diagnostic tool you have by standard if the application just by enabling your project to use that proper project templates. So let's switch to the project configuration here, and where we have the two major components. This edge application is the one that are going to put in all your remote sites, sending data to the student, and this application is the implementation of the user interface. So let's start opening the configuration for the collector. And it's really only 2 lines. This presentation intends to go in details of everything, but that I can go because frankly, the only thing you need to do on the edge device is to use that our new concept of tag providers. When Harry said dynamic tag provider, it's because when you map a Spark plug P connection or an MQTT connection, the objects you'll be able to browse and see from that connection, they are dynamically based on whatever you have in that broker now. And that's same to all tech providers. So when you create that connection, you can, for instance, create a connection also to Canary, in that case, using our gating technology. And with one line of configuration only, what I'm saying, okay, publish on the Canary provider, all data from that MQTT connection, starting at 3-level group ID. So essentially what this configuration is telling the application to do is to dynamically see what we have under this tree, group IG, and publish that dynamically to the Canary historian connection. Okay, that's it. Let's talk with the marketing guys, because if they think it's easy, we are in a good path. Any comments there, Dave?
It's amazing how easy that is. I just can't imagine having come up with that concept. That's really good, and a huge time saver. Just 2 lines and
yes. And in fact, in future releases, we are going to have new user interface tools on the project engineering, because to this type of the project, when they say, oh, you have a script, you have this, you have that. Yeah, but nothing of that is really used in this application. So we're going to even create some more simplified UI tools in our future roadmap, because some of applications now, they are so lean that sometimes intimidating all the tools you see, when in fact you need to do only 2 or 3 lines of configuration to accomplish what you want to do. Okay, that's all about the edge. Okay, not really much to show. So let's go back to the main application projects. The main application projects, we leverage that new asset modeling tools and also the tech provider. So how is this UI that you see here, to be more precise, the UI that you see here created? Essentially, what we did is, let me go back to the project configuration on the main application. This application has only one data source called Canary. We give that name, could be a name, but it's a connection with a Canary historian. In this case, I use the one embedded with our own products, but that same concept will apply to an external Canary historian also. And before some users, they complain, oh, but I like the SQL easy recording that you had the products. Don't worry, the SQL record is still there. In this example, we are even saving some information to some SQL tables. So in fact, in this little demo, we have 2 archives to do long-term storage. We have some data that are saving in standard SQL tables like we had on the past, and we have some data that you are exchanging with the Canary historian. So we still can have both historian providers working at the same time. But going back to the UI, so here we created one line of configuration that is Canary historian, okay? To map to the Canary historian, starting from this view data sets, historian assets. So here you can create as many connections you want. In this way, we just connect with the local computer, try to find a data set called historian assets. And that's it. That's the only configuration you need to do regarding data connection. Because if you go to tags, we have here only some tags to manage some user interface, user selections, the server monitoring, which showing the information about the computer CPU, but all the process data you don't find here, because you are leveraging that tech provider connection with the new asset modeling tools. And what we're doing here is that the new asset modeling tools, they have many nice features. We can have tags inside folders, have lots of nice features, but specifically in this demo, we are using a feature that you can include in our asset model links from an external dynamic tag provider. So you can build your asset model tree in FrameworX, but you can also say that from this node downwards, instead of doing the definition of the asset model here, you should just go to this provider and get whatever they have defined in their asset model right now. Are you following me, Dave?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And what's nice on that feature, you can combine many data sources at the same time. So if you want to make that concept of unified namespace, where we have some data model with some tags that are defined inside FrameworX, with some assets that you dynamically browsing from external devices with zero tag creation. You're just using right away whatever they have defined. You can do that, even mixing the many providers that we have now. So you see, and the number of providers are increasing by the week. But right now in the demo, we have the ControlLogix, Canary, another FactoryStudio application, OPC UA, Spark Plug B, and all those other storing tools you'll be short here also. So when you do your asset modeling, you can be a mix. So piece and parts of that, instead of having duplication of the definition. That's a nightmare. If you have someone that is engineering here, you know that when you have to make the synchronization in between two sets of standalone definitions, it's always a bottleneck for time, for being more reliable. So in this case, we extend your asset modeling with whatever those dynamic data sources defined on providers they are giving to us. Questions, Dave?
I think there are some coming in. Philip or Isabella, is there any at this point that we could bring up here?
Keep replying on the chat, Philip, and flag the ones that are most important to reply in the FAQ area. But if right now, Dave, you think it's clear enough, let's talk specific about the displays. Okay.
Let's. We've got about 20 minutes left.
Yes. So here on the displays, what we did, we create all those displays generic, not mapping to a specific asset. You see, it's just placeholders. And what we do in this application, we have one key page in this application that's called where we have the navigation tree to select your assets. And essentially, one of those frames in the HTML5, so to remind you, is this frame here. So this frame here is created just putting asset control in the UI. And this asset control, you select your assets, and the selected asset is feeding the data and selecting which frame is proper. So we have a very simple logic that I'm going to show in next week. We have a 1-hour presentation next week when I go in deep detail on this application. But pretty much what this application is doing, based on that selected elements, we'll see, okay, I'm selecting a new city, so let's put the map on this city. So I'm selecting specific assets. Let's drill down to that asset. That's pretty much what the application has to do. So it just creates those template pages, and the logic will react based on the selected assets. And in next week events, Dave, we'll show in detail the construction of the UI. It's really very straightforward because it's only one template that is dynamic, pointing to whatever asset was selected in the system configuration. So let's go back to the visual again, so we can have more direct interface now that the internet gods allowed me. So would you like to highlight anything else on the demo, Dave, before we move forward to questions, and I'll talk about our next presentation?
No, I do want to point out though that this is version 9.2, and all this development work has been done since we released our version 9.1 early this year. So we're busy. You know, we're adding things into the platform that people are asking for. And I think that, you know, we match up very well in the marketplace, given the power, given the cost effectiveness and the flexibility that come with FrameworX 9.2. And so I'm interested in what sort of questions we have from people that are seeing this for the first time in that regard. What do you see here that you have questions for? Let's go ahead and open it up.
As we bring the first question, I saw in the chat some people ask about downloads. We'll put in the support website in around 1 week from now, when I'm going to do a LinkedIn live presentation about that. So we are going to have next week that LinkedIn live presentation, where after that we'll make available. But even before that presentation next week, you can reach out for Dave to get that right now. If you have something short-term that you would like to really start your hands-on.
I think most people here have my contact information, but it's dave.hellier@tatsoft.com. Very easy to get to. There's my phone number. That phone is on me all the time, so feel free to call 24/7. It's not a challenge, but it's a welcome to hear from you. So please contact me if you're looking for something before next week. We can talk and get that into your hands.
Or if you prefer to have a more deep technical dive, on the next slides, you have the data for our LinkedIn that will be happening noon. We'll publish that in two new data source also. So let's go back to the questions now.
Can data be sent from the edge to the cloud like Azure and AWS?
Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, the Azure is one of the type providers we have right now. The AWS, we don't have a specific type provider published, but what's beauty about our type providers, they are as straightforward to create as the traditional communication drivers. So the people that know us know that we have, over the past 25 years, created more than 300 communication drivers. Right now, we are publishing almost 70 in our device driver. And for the dynamic tag provider, potentially any system that has its own tag definition, like ControlLogix PLCs we put on the system. So potentially any system that has any sort of tag definition asset model, we can very easily embed that as just one more option in the tag provider library. So please contact us to help us prioritize, because there are, I can think out of my mind now about potential 15 new options to enable that. And all of them are straightforward, but we need just to prioritize which one go first. So specific to your question, Azure is right there now. Amazon AWS, you can put very easily according to the time frame you need that.
Very good. Is the dynamic connection update immediate or one that requires an update trigger?
That's a tricky question, because depends on who we are connecting data with. Because what does happen, we do have some protocols like MQTT that you can subscribe the data. So when you are connecting with a tech provider that we can subscribe the data, we'll do, by exception, we'll subscribe and receive the data, not connect with one specific trigger. But to some other protocols like ControlLogix, you need a trigger. Because we need to go there and get the data. So we have our configuration update trigger, but to be clear, it's only when we'll pick up the data from the ControlLogix or to subscription protocols. When you update things like diagnostics and some built-in properties, moving that data from tag provider to remain of the platform because the data's already there. We are reading by exception.
Okay. The next question, please.
Yes, definitely we can. The reason we put the number 9.2 is because when you replace the second number, you don't need still a new licensing, but you can install side by side. So definitely, yes, if you have 9.1 or 8.1, you can install 9.2 in top of, and you should be able to see all the projects from the previous version and keep using the previous versions. By the way, I'd like to highlight that's a feature we always had that I believe is quite unique because we are one of the only framework tools that I know in automation that you can at the same time on the same computer very easily open and edit and modify projects from different releases with an automated management of that.
Gotcha.
And on
Okay.
license, Dave, I don't know if you're going to have a question about that, but on Canary, it's very important that 500 tags, free 500 tags, you need a license on the computer. The good news, there is no cost connected with that, but there is a procedure that's on the documentation. When you install the Canary tools that are embedded in our installation now, you need to go through a license process with us. Of course, you can and should reach out to Canary anytime you feel the needing. But for that embedded student, we are managing that procedure. So just contact us, and there is instruction to install the software to put the license, the Canary license, for that 500 points in the system.
Someone else asked a question about does a Canary historian replace what we were doing before, logging to SQL databases and other databases? And the answer is no. It's in addition to what we were doing before.
Yes.
So you can log your data to your Canary, your TADSoft Canary historian, and still log to SQL and other things that if that's important to you. So they're not mutually exclusive.
Yes, and that you cover on the next week training session. We
Yes.
show how very easily you can send some tags to Canary storing, some tags of the SQL historical archiving. Very easily you can define which data you want to send to which place. And the recovery is very easy. You don't care when doing your trend charts if this data is here or this data is there. We manage that also.
Mm-hmm. There was one about store and forward being supported with our MQTT tools, and absolutely yes. That's all part of what's in 9.2.
Yes, and this question on the screen, if the edge example Canary is storing for, yes. This example I did show, and we're going to share that project with the community, is a perfect example of that. Not only you are doing storing for to Canary, you can do that easily if the Canary service out, or you can have even a gateway in the middle in another network nodes. So the storing forward will be able to go through, even we have more than one network layer in between your source and your targets.
Mm-hmm. A question, where do I sign up for training? Right here. Give me a call, send me an email. We'll be notifying people when the 9.2 training is available online. We do have an online training product overview right now. If you went to training.tadsoft.com, you would be able to sign up for that. It's free, but we just ask you to sign in for it. And that's a really good resource for people. Anyone looking to for more information, either on the product or for training, feel free to send me an email. They had my email up there just a second ago, dave.hellier@tatsoft.com.
Perfect. And to my old friend, Alexander. How are you, Alexander? Long time no see. He's in Europe, for the ones that don't know. So hope be able to be back to Europe soon. But essentially, not really, because what we did with 9.2, we add some very cool technologies that open a completely new set of more easy to develop projects, but in top of concepts that were already there. So we always had the concept of asset modeling, the tags, the device drive communication. You could get data from one and put to another one. What 9.2 unlock is the ability to do all those things dynamically with zero or almost non-configuration, both of the data connectivity or on the UI. So frankly, even you are very willing to get deep on the 9.2, a good understanding of the framework, the 9.1, is definitely the way to go. Because what we did was magic extensions around the power of the platform. So everyone that we had before on scripts, displays, archiving, works in a nutshell with those dynamic extensions.
Good. By the way, my inbox is blowing up. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Can Canary be used instead of SQL?
Definitely. As they've pointed out, they are side by side. And probably I'll try to cover that in more detail next week, but it depends on how you want to use that data. There is not a magic recipe, but I can. So that's a teasing for you to be on the next week technical session. I'll give some pointers to help you specify when the SQL story and archiving, or when the Canary time series that's dedicated for time series, when one or each other makes more sense in our projects.
Good question, Michael. Thank you. Is it possible to use Tag Provider to communicate to FactoryStudio projects?
Definitely yes. It's the provider called T-Data Access. When you create a new connection, we have one of the protocols that say, oh, what's data access? Yes, data access is framework to framework communication.
Once you use Canary as historian, does all the historian functionalities like trends work as they do today for SQL?
That's exactly the beauty. As we pointed out in the specific webinar on the Canary presentation, we did that integration really so Canary can work as a native tool. So to all practical point of views, the Canary archives, they work as native as our own SQL archiving. So all the built-in functionalities on trend charts, do automatic query, not having to do any specific configuration to show the past data, or the math calculation using that. All the tools that we have are built-in functionalities. For all practical means, Canary is acting as a built-in option for historian, fully integrated in our tools.
There's a two-part question here that I'll go ahead and ask. Is it possible to make a dynamic tag from the tag provider into a regular tag, and kind of along with that is, or convert a subset of the MQTT data model into regular tags?
Definitely, yes. So we have that ability. So but those tags say now we always will show in the application whatever you have or not have there in your data source, and you have the quality data. So if those tags, they stop being available in your data source, they will still be in your application showing bad quality, because you'll not be able to get data from those tags. But definitely, yes, you can move that to be still tag defined at our platform, mapping to that external data source. Definitely, yes.
Okay.
So the agenda is with Dave. He'll reply those questions one to one. But one thing I'd like perhaps to point out, Dave, let me go here to show to our websites, let me open here a new browser window and go to tatsoft.com, because I do want to share with you where you can find good information on that. So if you go here in our standard website to support, you have here all the places where you have that kind of content information. You see, you have case studies, you have videos, all the LinkedIn videos, they are here. We have some description, what kind of training you have. We have the online documentation. So just like to point out, to recommend also to you those technical resources. Okay, next question.
Well, it's already after 1 o'clock, so we've used up our hour that quickly. So if there are more questions, it's probably a good time to go ahead and send them to us. Send them to me. Send at dave.hellier@tatsoft.com again, and I'll make sure that we get them answered. And unless there's anything else we need to do here today, then I would say that would be a wrap.